Well, hello and welcome back to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg. I am here today to do Friday Reads video, as I have been doing for a while now. It's been a long week. Nothing really major, nothing really to report, nothing worth mentioning, really just busy. It felt like it took forever to get to Friday, and that Friday is the day I'm filming this video. But we're here. The weekend is in sight. It's nice. It has started to snow where I live, so it's going to be interesting to see what that means for the weekend. I'm hoping it's going to be a nice, quiet weekend. I had been hoping that I would do a Friday Reads video and my January wrap-up, but I did not make a whole lot of progress with some of the books, and I wanted to try to see if I can finish the books I'm currently reading before the end of the month. So I'm going to hold on my monthly wrap-up until I see how far I get with those. I had mentioned last week that I would be doing something of a news cleanse. I kind of stuck to that. It's difficult because I didn't swear off of Twitter, and news is on Twitter. But what I did do is, so I subscribe to 3 different news podcasts, and in addition to like The Daily Show and things like that. And I only listened to one of the podcasts, and that is NPR's Up First. Basically, it takes the news and condenses it into like 10 to 15 minutes. And so it feels like I'm engaging with the news, but not all of the news. And it has a kind of friendly, approachable tone. So I did listen to that one. So I did not listen to the other ones I listened to, which are the New York Times and Washington Post. And I'm going to continue doing that into this next week because it felt cleansing, which was the point, of course, but it worked. And I feel much better about the world. The news is on there, and I didn't swear off of Twitter, so I did. I just took a step back where I'm not obsessively following the news. I'm not constantly checking the news. I'm not like scrolling through it. And that felt really good. And it started to feel like I got back to doing some of the things that I enjoy doing and not so much the stress, which was a really good and essential break for me. Unfortunately, some of the news that happened this week was, of course, bad news. Cloris Leachman died. If you follow along, you know I am a huge fan of the Mary Tyler Moore Show, or you may remember that. And she played Phyllis on the Mary Tyler Moore, which was eventually spun off into its own show. I have never seen her spinoff because it's not available on DVD. I don't believe it's streaming anywhere. People never talk about it or anything like that. It lasted maybe 2 seasons at most. It's certainly not as well known as Rhoda, which was a spinoff of Mary Tyler Moore. But Cloris Leachman is an actress who has really incredible range. She is incredibly funny as Phyllis on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. It'd be interesting to see how her character would fare in a spinoff because she's such an outlandish character. I really can't picture how a show centered on her would work. But they clearly made it work with Frasier, who was an outlandish character, so who knows? She was also a dramatic actress. She won an Oscar for The Last Picture Show, which I actually just so happen, spoiler alert for my my next book haul, which will be for February. I just got a copy of that from my local used bookstore, and because I loved Lonesome Dove so much, I want to read more Larry McMurtry, and that seems like a logical next place to go. Do you want an Oscar for that? I saw the movie, it's come like 20 years ago, maybe. I started a project a while ago to see all of the major Oscar winners, and of course, she won Best Supporting Actress for it. Peter Bogdanovich directed it, but Ben Johnson won Best Supporting Actor for it, and I remember their performances, and I don't remember a whole lot else about the movie, so I need to revisit it, kind of in honor of her, of course. The other one was Cicely Tyson, whose book we just got access to the audiobook that she had released. She narrates the audiobook with Viola Davis. It's called Just As I Am. And this was one of the books I had been most anticipating in 2021. I really respect her as an actress and her work. And I saw her on Broadway in The Trip to Bountiful a couple of years, just before we left New York City to move to Montana. We saw her in that. Basically, that is, if you're familiar with it, The Trip to Bountiful was a play. It was adapted into a movie with Geraldine Page, who won Best Actress for it at the Oscars. But it has always been done with white actors. And apparently at the time, Cicely Tyson had kind of remarked on how that would be a part that she would love to play someday. And she eventually got a chance, and they did a sort of racial swap where all of the characters were black except for the sheriff. And it was really fascinating. It added a lot of dimensions to the play, or brought out things that are in the play that you might not have noticed before and really exaggerated them. But Cicely Tyson is so smart because she didn't play up those things. She just did herself. She brought so much to the character, and it was beautiful, and she had such energy. She had the entire auditorium, a theater, I should say, wrapped around her finger. And I'm glad I had the opportunity to see her perform. But I'm very sad. I am really looking forward to her book. Part of me is thinking that I want to drop the audiobook I'm currently listening to so I can immediately get to Just As I Am. But I should finish what I'm working on. I'm trying to do mood reading, which, by the way, was not a term I would have applied to myself. But after I talked about why I'm not doing a 2021 reading goal, people kind of commented about mood reading. I was like, yeah, that's basically what I'm going to do. Cool. So this will very likely be the next audiobook that I get to, but I do want to finish the one that I started, and we'll get to that when we do the actual Friday Reads portion of this video. But yeah, it was a tough week for losing people because both actresses are really dear to my heart for very different reasons, and it's sad to see them go. So actually, my husband was traveling this week because work required him to, so I had been thinking in my head, okay, I'm going to get so much done, and of course, you never get all of the things that you would like to get done finished. But I did get some things done. I've decided I'm really going to take a low-key approach to the year to avoid like stressing myself out. And as part of that, I had been thinking like I'm going to catch up on a bunch of movies. I'm going to do a lot of reading. And then what I ended up doing was catching up on movies more than anything. I saw a couple of movies that were going to be like Oscar contention. We saw Mank. We saw Let Them All Talk. I watched Pieces of a Woman, which, trigger warning all over that one, but and it felt really good to be doing that. The kind of quote unquote penalty for that was that I did not get a whole lot of reading done because work has been really busy during the day, so my time in the evening was kind of spent catching up on movies and things I had not been watching. But it still felt really good and cleansing, and I'm looking forward to more of those things. And I have a couple more potential Oscar movies that I need to catch up on as well, so there will be more of that to come. I'm hoping that this weekend I can catch up on a lot of reading, as I said, but we'll see how that goes. I also have signed up for the first round of the BookTube Prize 2021, which just launched. This is the octafinal round. I am on the fiction side. I am pretty excited about the books I'll be reading. Once I start them, I won't be able to talk to you about them until the round is over. However, I figure I'll run through them now so you can get a sense of what I'm reading. I will probably mention them in Friday Reads videos as I work my way through them. I'm kind of excited. Well, I feel like I can say this because I haven't actually started, so there's still plenty of time for things to change my mind. I'm excited for half of the list, and I'm not so excited for the other half of the list. So there are two books that I don't have. Actually, one of them is available at the library right now, and I need to pick it up this weekend. They do curbside pickup. It's wonderful. That one is Utopia Avenue by David Mitchell. I've only read half of a David Mitchell book before, which kind of gives you a sense that this is one of the ones I have a little bit of trepidation about. We'll see how that goes. The other one I'm waiting for the library to get is Death in Her Hands by Otessa Moshfegh. I have not gotten along with Otessa Moshfegh books in the past. Doesn't mean I won't like this one, but it's going to have a steep road to climb because I really didn't like the 1.5 of her books that I have read. So we'll see how that goes. But then getting into the ones that I have, since we're talking about the ones I'm not so excited about, the other one is American Dirt by Jeanine Cummins, which very controversial. I do feel like this is kind of the kick in the pants. I would need to actually read it and kind of, so I've talked about the controversy a fair amount recently, all the stuff surrounding this book. I don't want to get into it right now, but at least, now I feel like I will be able to talk about this book with a little bit more of authority, because right now all I can talk about is the controversy. I can't say anything about the quality of the book because I haven't read it. And now I'll be able to. So, we'll see. Some accounts say that it's a good book. It just was marketed in a way that it shouldn't have been, and the author did some problematic things along the way that kind of muddled the message of the book and her level of expertise on the subject matter. So there's that one. And then the three I'm excited about, I'm really excited about. Luster by Raven Leilani, Real Life by Brandon Taylor, and The Mirror and the Light. This is probably the one I'm going to start with once I finish the book I'm currently reading, which we'll get to in a moment, because it's certainly the biggest book in there, and from what I've heard, it's kind of dense. I'm really excited about it. Can't wait to read it. This is, again, I'm using the BookTube Prize to give myself a kick in the pants to read some things, that I might not have tried or that I should get around to, and this is the latter. It's something that I've wanted to read since it was released, and this is kind of the kick in the pants I need to say, like, hey, now read it. So I'm very excited about that. And the same actually kind of goes for real life, because I've been wanting to read this again, pretty much since it was released. And so those are the BookTube Prize. That was not a deliberate omission, but those are the BookTube Prize books I will be reading in round one. I am in Group E, which amuses me because it sounds like groupie, so I keep referring to myself as a groupie. And you gotta amuse yourself whatever way you can. So that is something that I am going to have coming up. Really excited about. Now, again, once the BookTube Prize round starts, like I actually start reading these books, I won't be able to talk to you about them or what I think of them until the round is over, because at that point I will be able to, unleash my embargo about the quality of the books, my ranking of the books, and we'll see what advanced. I will mention them in Friday Reads videos as I work my way through, but I can't give you my opinion of them. So just FYI, in the coming weeks, we'll be navigating that little minefield together. But don't worry, hopefully there's going to be plenty of other things to talk to. I'm reading all of them in physical form, or at least that's the plan. So I will still be listening to audiobooks. So it's not like over the next month or so, there are going to be like no books that I can talk about on the channel. Because February is coming, it's almost here. And I had been thinking that I wanted to do something as a nod to like Black History Month. And I suppose there are at least 2 of these books that qualify for that, but I may look for an audiobook that I can listen to on the side that would work for that. I had been planning, I think the BookTube Prize is as much of a reading list or readathon that I really want to give myself for this year, especially since I'm not doing a reading goal. But I would like to kind of nod toward things like Black History Month. I always do like an LGBTQ reading in June, and we'll see how the rest of the year goes. Moving into what I am currently reading, the actual Friday Reads portion of this video, I'm still working on The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. I mentioned that because of news last week, I didn't make a whole lot of progress. And then this week, I've really gotten back on track, but because I focused on like movies, I did not get a whole lot done on this. And I came to a realization. I think the reason I was having a hard time when I did pick this up last week is that this is a book that requires participation from the reader. And that's not a bad thing. I don't mean that as a negative, but it's like you have to be present. You can't just mindlessly run through it. It requires thought and care. And also because I'm enjoying it, I want to give it thought and care. And last week I was not really in a position to do that. So I'm hoping that now I read a little bit last night and I seem to be back on track. So I'm hoping that this weekend I might be able to finish it. But and I'm not going to really be a stickler for this, because my whole reading goal, in so much as I have one for 2021, is not to put pressure on myself and stress myself out about reading. And, I think I just need to accept I'm a slow reader. It's the way it is, and that's the way it's going to be. I'm not going to try to rush my way through a whole lot of books just to have something to talk about on this channel. I think there are going to be other ways that I can probably work that out and figure it out. And we can figure it out together. But I'm really still enjoying this book a lot, and I'm hoping that I can finish it this weekend so I can have a clean slate in February to get started on the BookTube Prize. But if it carries into February, so be it. But the goal is to try. I have, I think, 200 pages left. So odds are I'm not going to finish it this weekend. But I hope I can at least make some really good progress. So when I'm done with this, I can go right into The Mirror and The Light. And then on audio, I hadn't decided what I was going to listen to when I did my last Friday Reads video. And I was cruising through all of the options that were available on Scribd. And I had put a hold on The Prettiest Star by Carter Sickels. This is something that I had wanted to read since it was released last year. And I just kind of thought to myself, you know what, do it. This is the kind of what I want to do this year. Like, I don't want to plan what I'm reading so much as kind of react in the moment and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. So this was the moment for The Prettiest Star. So if you're not familiar, The Prettiest Star is set in 1986. It's not a happy book. And I think that's the other thing that was a little difficult, is because if you're not familiar with The Prophets, it's a book about 2 male slaves on a plantation who are in love and all of the complications that come with that. The Prettiest Star is about a man in 1986 whose boyfriend has just died of AIDS and who has AIDS himself and knows that he is dying and doesn't know what to do. So he ends up going home to, I think it's Ohio. He had left home when he came out and kind of come out, and his family didn't approve. So he goes home to die, basically, and be with his family. And so it's not happy. And I fully anticipate that I am going to cry horribly at the end of this book. I already, like, I haven't cried, but it's very emotional. Just the realization that he doesn't really have much time and doesn't want to be a burden to anyone and doesn't know where to go and ends up back with his family. What kind of concerns me so far in the book, I think I'm maybe 20 or 25% of the way through, is that the majority of the perspective actually belongs to his mother and his sister. We have only heard from Brian himself, the main character, or ostensibly the main character, in brief little moments. And that's kind of interesting. It's not what I expected. A similar thing happened with Uzodinma Onwuela's book, Speak No Evil, where it seemed like the book was going to be about a closeted gay person who was forced out of the closet, but it ended up being much more about his friend. And I really did not like that. So far, I like it in this instance because I see a lot of what Carter Sickels is doing. It's kind of exploring the different reactions of the people around him and then how much they love him, but don't necessarily like or approve of what he is or what he does, and the fear of it, especially at this time. You do not get the perspective of his father, and that's kind of the perspective I'm really wanting so far. So it's going to be interesting to see if kind of like A Place for Us by Fatima Farheen Mirza, if later on in the book the father's perspective will come in, because the father is the one who's sort of the driving force behind not accepting Brian for who he is, and potentially the one who is most discriminating about Brian's condition. He insists that they have to have separate plates and forks and glasses for Brian to use, even though even at that point they knew that was not how AIDS was transmitted. And so it's interesting because you see them wrestling with Brian and who Brian is and what he is living with and dying with, and in kind of interesting ways. It feels weird because I feel like a lot of what I would talk about this book would be speculation and where I want it to go, and I'm actually enjoying seeing where it is taking me. And I kind of want to keep doing that because I as much as I want to say, like, I really want more from Brian, I really want to hear from the father, I do actually enjoy hearing the perspective of the mother and the sister a lot. And it's going to be interesting to see where this one goes. Again, it'll be emotionally devastating, for sure. But, sometimes that can be a good thing in a book. So that's my reading week. That's my week watching movies. If you've seen any of those movies, by the way, again, the ones I watched this week were Mank, Let Them All Talk, and Pieces of a Woman. If you've seen any of those, let me know in the comment section down below. If you've read, let me know your thoughts about the BookTube Prize books. I know a lot of people are reading The Prophets right now. I'd love to hear how your experience of reading that is going. If you have read The Prettiest Star by Carter Sickels, let me know. Recommendations, anything, thoughts, what's going on in your life. Put it in the comment section down below, and we'll go from there. Of course, I will be back. I'm hoping, we'll see how I do with The Prettiest Star and The Prophets over the weekend, and then I'm going to start off next week with my monthly wrap-up for January. At least that's the plan. We'll see how everything goes. So, as always, if you follow along, I really appreciate it. If you do not follow along but are watching this and enjoyed it, I hope you decide to follow along. If not, that's okay. Whatever. We're all here to do our thing. And I will be back. Until next time, happy reading.